and welcome to this week's slightly later episode of Urbane Legends, the infotainment podcast about urban legends, where the info's shaky and any claims of tainment would be highly controversial. I am one of your hosts, Chris Flynn, and with me, as always, is my brother-in-arms, Mr.
Neil Herbert. That's where we put that legal disclaimer in the description. And
we were advised by our council.
Yeah.
But I don't mean legal council. I mean Brighton Hove City Council. They advised us that we should start putting that in.
Like called Tony Council. Hello, I'm Brighton Hove Council.
Hello, I'm Tony Council.
He hangs around.
I like what you're doing, but I think you need to put a disclaimer at the front, middle, and end of this because you could get yourself in lots of hot water. You know, because
he sounded like he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, he sounded all right. Yeah, he had a tie that was made of paper and everything. It was great. Made out of old Christmas wrapping paper.
That's thrifty.
Yeah, you won't catch old Tony out. I tell you what,
no flies on Tony. Well,
no flies on Tony. So, I bet you southern idiots waste your money on ties made of polyester or even silk. What I'd like to do is I make mine out of old Christmas wrapping paper. Because it's cheerful. Christmas is also my favourite time of the year. And it saves wasting paper. And also it saves me in the pocket having to pay out for one of these textile-based nonsenses.
So what you put me in mind there of, Chris, is you know these people who there was one guy in the paper, they'd like Christmas every day for like, I don't know, 20 years or something.
Yeah, before his inevitable suicide.
I was going to say, it's just the most depressing thing I've ever heard. I don't know what this says more about him or about me, but
on Christmas Day, he has a really normal day or something.
No, it's supposedly enjoys Christmas so much, just has, has done Christmas every day. They always end up in the paper. He always end up putting them in the paper every year. I mean, good luck, I suppose. But
I think the thing is, when you don't have
a turkey dinner every day,
when you don't have a personality as such to speak of, but you want some attention, you can always do something like that, or do like I've got the bike with the most bottle caps on it, or something. Just something that the reason why you can have the most of it is because no one else wants to do it, so you can get a little bit of attenation, can't you?
Yeah,
very much like us with this podcast.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean let's be honest, this podcast. You're saying, "Oh, we're late." Yeah, we're the only people that know that's the case.
Yeah, there's a reason
there
why
on Thursday. Go, when's it coming?
Well, yeah, I mean, I wanted to let
hours late.
I wanted to let the listeners know, and in no way was it a way to spoof the stats to get extra listens at all.
Oh wow, that kind of canny thinking will be in the top 100 any time in the next decade, I would imagine.
We've flirted with the top 100 or been in the top 100 in a lot of countries now, but that's only true. Briefly, only for like a day.
I believe we were in the top 20 in Pakistan's improv comedy podcast.
We were number one.
That tells us more about the number of
the thirst for improv comedy podcasts in Pakistan. But we did all right there for a bit. We were booking our flights to Karachi, but then it tailed off.
Yeah, we must have had a related urban myth. And that's, no disrespect to any podcast coming.
They've left us now, Neil. Don't worry about it.
Well, we're a British church, and we always welcome back.
Oh, well, there's people from all over the world listen.
There's one thing we do thoroughly enjoy is seeing people from all over the world listen to this.
Yeah,
random nonsense.
But, like we've said, primarily America at the moment, and and that's why I'm constantly comfortable.
We've basically broken America, haven't we? We did what Robbie Williams couldn't.
I'd like to. The
Beatles in a lot of ways.
The Beatles were bigger than Jesus.
And it took four of them,
and we're bigger than the Beatles.
Twice. Yeah,
exactly. So we're like
twice as efficient.
So that means we're 8 times Jesus. I think that's how that's like that. Yeah, eight times Jesus.
Jesus to the power of 8. Yeah,
yeah, probably seeing as most listeners are American, we maybe shouldn't be saying this because they do like the.
No, let's not go on a rant about guns. Or we're really going to lose some support.
But you sometimes are a bit unsure about me massively slandering companies, real people, dead or alive, that kind of thing on the podcast. But I think in court we could very much argue that this is an American podcast because that's the vast amount of our, and their libel laws are very different. If you're a public figure, that's true. That's why all the American celebrities come to the
London
UK
court to get people,
to go after people. Right. I've left my lighter over there. So Neil, you fill in.
Okay. Well, this is a promising start to the podcast. So I don't even know what we're going to be talking about this week. So this is going to be an extended period of talking, which we probably want to cut out. That was not a very entertaining segue. I kind of like froze like a rabbit in the headlights.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? More difficult than you think.
Yeah.
How's your laptop doing?
Well, I did.
Because it broke, didn't it? That was one of the reasons why we were late. That and my job hunt.
It wouldn't. There's something weird going on with the battery. I can't figure out whether it's on its last legs or because I sort of pop the charger in and then it's sort of like I don't know. I think there might be something wrong with the battery, but basically I kept it in the charger in for like 24 hours and then all of a sudden it popped back into life. There's a couple of times it's done that, but
maybe you need to defrag the hard drive.
I don't think it's a fragmentation issue. It just literally.
Oh, really? Really? Well, what is it then? Well, I mean, you sound like you're throwing stuff back in my face, but
it's probably something to do with the power, the battery.
Doesn't seem to. That doesn't make sense.
Shut up.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Shut up.
So this week, I wanted to talk about because we haven't recorded since the Putin interview with the haunted Frankfurter Tuckler Karlsson.
Well, I've got an addendum to that. It's just come out, I think, today.
God's greatest journalist.
Yeah.
So Tucker Karlsson, I think we can all agree he's dreadful. But so Putin came out with some interesting stuff. You know, he's clearly.
We say interview is more like extended rant.
It was. Well, someone sat there,
I've not seen it.
kind of laughing,
just like 40 minutes where he put the whole historical perspective, I guess. And then as soon as slagged him off as a weak journalist or something.
He's like, I know.
Because he's just a bully and that's all he can do.
But the whole kind of argument seems to be that it's based on, he's basing everything on like where the like boundary lines were around Europe in like 1350. Or something like that. And do you know what? Right, what I'll say.
He's going to have to be a little bit careful, otherwise Genghis Khan's.
I was going to say, how about we do it 200 years before, where you were a tiny vassal state to the fucking Mongol Empire, you dick. Do you know what I mean?
Have a fucking taste of that. Yeah, unfortunately, they've got nuclear weapons.
But they won't fire. It's all like they'll go and try and fire one, and all the rivets had been like sold down the market or whatever by whoever's in charge of the base. Like none of the shit works.
Mind you, you want to be careful with our trident chain. I think we had a missile go skew-iffy.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Plenty
more where that come from.
Plenty more where that come from. When Pyongyang does it, then everyone's scared. We fire a missile into the sea, and apparently laughing stock.
Although I will notice, I think Peter's been put it out already. There's a lot of military scare stories all of a sudden coming out, and I believe there's a new, supposedly something to do with round of funding for the military.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
It's not
that's
a coincidence that all of a sudden,
like you expected, don't you? It's kind of
run out of this and that and the other in 2 years, blah blah blah.
Well, the thing is, right?
Blame them. That's the way it works.
I'll come back to Putin in a minute. So I'm watching. I quite like as kind of like TV on in the background. Like while I'm like doing something on my laptop or whatever, just kind of nonsense TV. I quite like the ones where it's like a garage, like in America somewhere, or sometimes Canada, and they go and like find a car in a field, and it's like a shit, like it's just like fucked.
They're rusty as shit, and then they just completely bring it back to life.
Yeah, bring it back to life, make it amazing, and kind of.
It's not a Herbie scenario. It's just, I say back to life. I mean, they get rid of the rust.
Yeah, no, they actually bring it back to life. They implant a soul.
Comes a sentient being. Because Herbie's actually kind of horrifying if you think about it. Yeah,
of course it is. Yeah,
like a lot of children's story.
So there's one. So there's one which I'm watching at the moment. I think it's called like Iron Resurrection or something. It's good though. I enjoy it. And when I'm not watching History 2, then I'm watching stuff like that.
That sort of stuff, that kind of thing. Though I do know what you mean. It is really. I don't know why I find it compelling, but when they take something, you think there's nothing you can do with that. Like, see on YouTube sometimes there'll be like something that's rusted to fuck, and somebody just recreates the whole thing and repaints it, and it looks as good as.
It's nice, isn't it? Because you think, well, it'd be nice. Yeah, it'd be nice. Like you'd love to be able to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're a proper man, which we're not, then it'd be something that'd be really good to do. But like, there's a guy on one of those.
2 seconds in, I'd be like, "Oh fuck this."
Yeah, sure.
How much scrubbing?
Just get a bus.
The bin,
there's a guy on that, and he's like amazing upholsterer.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, like, well, I kind of learned a lot of the skills. Like I was in the military for a bit, and so I was like an engineer, and I learned those skills. Then I came out, and then I focused on upholstery, and now, and I was thinking, do you know what? Like, because obviously now in the UK we've got like you can fit our army inside like a soccer stadium. Right, because we got
we don't keep a big standing army. We never have, which I don't think.
But I think the thing is, because I always think, well, I don't like armies because I don't like war. But I do think that there's something to be said that people do learn a trade from it. Like you do come out of it with some skills. So, like maybe it is.
Well, some do, some don't. I mean, there's the problem is as well. A lot of people end up getting thrown out in their 30s, and there's a massive amount of mental health issues and homelessness.
Some people come out as holsterers. Some people come out as murderers. Whatever, but
I think when you look at the kind of the amount of mental health issues and things like that, people coming out of the army, maybe it's good for him that he's managed to get those skills.
If they're being sent to war and stuff, then
I mean, it's probably far more probable if you actually, it's
kind of like, maybe we should,
and all the rest of it. I don't know.
But anyway,
you're going on about bringing back national service, Chris? Is that your point?
Yeah, now I'm too old to be called up. Yes, I absolutely am.
Yeah. Yeah, pulling that ladder up.
Exactly.
I got mad.
Learn it from the boomers. So if we did go back so I'm not actually against going back to like 1310 European borders, because it means Scotland could be independent. Yeah, because and that's shut down.
They'd like that. Yeah,
exactly. But it also means that England would get like big corner of northwest France, and also the Bordeaux region. So I'd be moving there. I'd be off, wouldn't you? Yeah. I'm off to Bordeaux tout de suite, is what I'd say. And I'd go down there. Everyone would speak English. Beautiful.
Even a bit more southern. Lovely.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I think technically they would have all been still speaking French, but medieval French at that.
Yeah, but not when we're back in charge now. They'll be outlawed.
That's true.
If I hear a bonjour, they'll be up against the wall. So also the other thing which Putin was talking about is he was going on about how now in the West we've got the technology, and maybe we already are creating like super soldiers because of like gene therapy or some shit. Like you're saying all kinds of quite interesting stuff. And so I was thinking, oh yeah, maybe like that's weird. I wonder if
that's happening.
I wonder if any countries ever kind of tried to do anything like that before, because we often talk about the military trying to make animal human hybrids. And so it turns out that a country did try to create animal human hybrids.
The Soviet Union by any chance, Chris?
Yeah, the artist formerly known as the Soviet Union might have done it. So I thought that as a little kind of poo-poo to Vladimir, a bit topical. We'll have a little look at that. I know it's going to be a slightly shorter episode, but it's interesting anyway, because I always thought that it was either bollocks, right, or it was...
I have heard of this, and I have,
Cold War paranoia kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? They just made it up to kind of make the Russians look like monsters. But turns out there's more than a little truth in that. So.
The whole ethics of a lot of the original geneticists is so fucking shady, and I mean like the properly good scientific ones as well. A lot of it was, I think, where I went to uni.
This very much sits side by side with eugenics.
Yeah, exactly. No, where I went to uni, this was like the
here we go.
Jones had come out was
Nuremberg.
No, it was UCL actually, but it was there's I think it was the Russell Institute is now called or something. Anyway,
Bertrand Russell.
No, he's another chap. But
Russell
it used to be
Grant,
called the Centre for Eugenics and Human Advancement or some crap like that. Anyway, the eugenics was heavily prominent.
Is that what?
They decided on a rebrand.
And you left there. You didn't finish your doctorate, did you? Because you.
That wasn't my doctorate. That was my undergraduate degree.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But all right. I thought that was where I thought you'd pulled out because you found out they weren't actually doing eugenics.
Let's pretend that. Well, no, I mean none of it's like that anymore. But yeah, a lot of. Well, I mean, the thing is, 20s and 30s are a weird time, man. I mean, even the likes of like Mary Stopes, the reason she was so keen on contraception for women was because she didn't want to, didn't want people she thought was genetically inferior to be able to breed. And apparently, she never forgave her brother for marrying
the Planned Parenthood stuff. Yeah, they've got brilliant now, obviously, but they have like so many of our valuable
complex.
Institutions.
It's easy to reduce these things.
Hey, man, life's. Like, despite what culture warriors might say, life is not black and white. There's a lot of grey in there. And if you're too stupid to understand that, then stay in bed.
I tried that, but I've got bed sores.
Terrible bed sores.
Yeah.
Ended up rotting through the mattress.
Talking of Putin, though, I'll tell you what's happened recently.
Ooh,
have you seen?
Here we go. What?
Cutting right at the heart of the British. The bandits from fishing in their waters are going to impact on fish and chips, Chris.
What? In the Russian waters?
So the Bering Strait, we can't. So there was I think it was 54. There was. I'll see if I can look up the details. So
the Bering Strait
agreement with Khrushchev.
But that's literally on the other side of the world.
I mean, well, hang on a minute. Just
I suppose if you go over the top.
Well, if you want to catch the best fish. Let's have a look.
They've got the Russians they've got a really weird thing. They think that the UK is still powerful. They like. Well,
it's all because of who's the chap that got assassinated? I forget the. It was a deal signed with the UK in 1956 by Khrushchev. It's been axed because we put sanctions on 6 people in charge of the penal colony. Where Alexei Navalny died. Died of natural causes. He had a cough. Extremely suspicious.
He had a bad cough.
I don't see the body. I've already buried him. We're going to dig him up.
They showed the body to the mum today, apparently. Who unfortunately fell out a window.
Heavily redacted. Yeah. Unfortunately, no, she's just a trainer.
She died of grief, unfortunately.
Yeah, I couldn't take it. I'll take her. We did warn you, but you had to. He's so sanctimonious fucking Westerners. But yeah, no. So then I just want to look at the parliamentary speaker for Russia. He said the British need to study some proverbs. Russian harness the horse slowly, but ride it fast. And here's another good one. He told politicians that the unscrupulous British had eaten Russian fish for 68 years. Now it's time for them to lose weight, get smarter. And apparently...
Are they calling us fat?
Yeah.
What? What did you say?
Right, it's a square go. Right, they went on to lament Gorbachev and the loss of the Soviet Union.
Right, we're giving all the football hooligans their passport back, right? Sending them into Russia.
Oh, they'd love that.
They would love it. And the thing is, because we banned all of our football hooligans for going to World Cups.
Quite rightly,
Quite rightly. But Russia actually encouraged their right-wing football hooligans. And so they were just they'd just plough through the streets, beating up families and stuff. It's kind of it's not very nice.
Well, so I know it isn't. And apparently a lot of them were quite influenced by what happened to Britain in the 80s, which is very sad because, it's that whole football hooliganism thing was a stain on our...
No, it's
I say 80s. It went on until far too bloody late. There's still plenty of wankers, but
but it's been largely stamped out, hasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, when you compare it with other places, it's. But anyway, apparently we haven't fished there for years and have no real plans to. So there's absolutely no material impact on our fish supplies.
Right. And to be honest, we do sell most of our fish supplies to China because it's more profitable. Which is that's what most of them do now. Billingsgate markets.
Well, to be fair, if you're if you're in the fishing trade, it's a fucking hard trade, I would imagine.
No, it's not. It's the easiest trade.
What, going out fishing on a fucking boat and trying to...
It's not right. So what are you doing when you're fishing, right? You don't have to grow the fish. You don't have to look after the fish. You're just pulling shit out, which costs nothing, and selling it. It's the easiest gig in the world.
Right, let's see you up the fishing mission at 5 o'clock in the morning.
And I won't hear any different.
That's our huge fisherman support. Well, I stand by the great fishing fleet of Great Britain. Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't.
I slag him off.
I will slag him off. I think, and don't get me started on fucking farmers.
Oh, no, don't
you? Ugh. God. Sitting around in their combine harvesters, masturbating all day. You've only got one season. You got 1 season of sowing. You got 1 season of fertilizing. You got 1 season where you have to harvest. What are you doing with the rest of the time? That's what I'm asking now.
Like seeing them work in an office.
Yeah, exactly. You should do some temp work. Go fruit picking. Anyway, so today's episode is brought to you by Scientific American.
Ooh.
So I think that's reputable.
We're verging on to outside urban myth territory here, Chris. I know there has been sort of rumours about exactly what went on.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit outside of the norm, but I mean, there was the myth of there being chimera soldiers, monkey soldiers.
Human disease and all of this nonsense.
Yeah, so it's kind of, but it's a little bit topical, and I thought it'd be an interesting.
Sometimes you want to play fast and loose with the definitions,
Look, if we stuck to what we said we were going to do ever, then this podcast
is probably get somewhere in life,
doing quite well. So this is from a section called the Primate Diaries, which is like the Princess Diaries, but with more sex, and it's
and a bit more chip flinging, presumably.
No, less.
Actually, less. Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that scat scene in the Princess Diaries. Yeah,
yeah.
Never.
Not as in
Oh no, I was referring to Scatman John. Yeah,
yes. God rest his soul.
Whatever. Yeah.
I'm going to listen to that when I get off this wretched call and make
myself finish up as quickly as possible so we can go
chicken and mash. Nice. What are you going to have? I'm having chicken and mash. What are you going to have for dinner?
I don't know. I'm going to go out shopping after this. So
really?
What I fancy. Yeah.
Down a petrol station, is it?
No. I might go further afield. Might go down Brighton Station. Get something.
Go down Brighton Station.
Yeah.
What, to the Budgeons?
Well, there's a Marks down there. There's a Marks. There's Sainsbury's.
You're doing all right, aren't you? Just to let the listeners know, because I know they're worried about my employment situation, I have 3 interviews upcoming tomorrow and 2 on Monday. So I'll let you know how I get on. They are with 3 incredibly disparate industries doing my business analysis. One is for an airline industry, one is for an international education industry, and one is for a hygiene industry. So it just shows you it's not a bad line of work to get in because you can go and work anywhere.
Skills. Yeah.
So, Scientific Ethics and Stalin's Ape Man Super Warriors by Eric Michael Johnson, November the 10th, 2011. Author's note, the following originally appeared at Archie, whatever that is. So, the anti-Darwin industry amongst fundamental Christians is starting hot.
I'll tell you what, they're coming in straight out of the gates.
Whoa. Here we go.
Heading for the finish line.
Has produced thousands of pages of misinformation in their attempt to tar and feather the theory of evolution. I have responded to many of these false claims previously. However, one assertion that is especially outlandish is that Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin was devoted to Darwinism and who funded a program to create an ape-man super warrior in his goal for world domination.
And might as well, mightn't you? If you're dictator of all of those people, don't really care about life. Yeah, give it a go.
Doesn't matter, does it? Like, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't his main thing, but you've got to
you've got to put a lot of irons in the fire, see what happens.
Got to do a few moonshots, isn't it?
Yeah, this is one of those kind of like
it's not
high reward scenarios. Yeah, we'll give it a go if it pulls off.
Pulls off, then brilliant.
Tell you what, they've been on the battlefield. The Americans were in doing it 2 months later. So
that's if they don't already have this. Do you know what I mean?
The British trying to crossbreed a poodle and a fish.
Trying to force someone from Norfolk to have sex with a chimp. Go on, that's it, boy. Go ahead. What we'll make up for lack of funding with pluck and determination.
It's a bit of British pluck.
That's actually
a side effect. They invented Viagra 50 years earlier. So,
yeah, and they created Viagra and Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah.
So, as Creation Ministries, a publisher of the Journal of Creation, an advocate of a young Earth literal interpretation of the Bible, insisted in 2006. He's got a little bit of he's got a bit of
he's got some things to resolve, hasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go on about human disease, and so we just.
I think we'll get there, but first of all, as he starts every article, he wants to take down the creationists. So, the Journal of Creation insisted 2006. Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin wanted to rebuild the Red Army in the mid-1920s with the Planet of the Apes-style troops by crossing humans with apes. Stalin is said to have told Ivanov,
what the Planet of the Apes was about.
I want a new invincible human being, insensitive to pain, resistant, and indifferent about the quality of food they eat. So, their only legitimate source for this claim comes from a 2002 paper in the Academic Journal of Science in Context by the Russian historian of science, Kirill Rozyanov. Rozyanov followed the ill-fated attempt by the Russian psychologist Ilya Ivanov to crossbreed humans with anthropod apes. His research offers an important warning about the ethical abuses that can occur when proper standards are not enforced, like washing your hands and that. But
again, with a lot of these kind of studies, there's been, historical abuses, and Lord, I mean, that's plenty of that to go around for all countries, sadly.
Yeah, and still now, probably. Definitely. But Rozyanov's paper clearly demonstrates that creating super warriors had no part in Ivanov's work. The alleged quote from Stalin is not found in the paper, and there's no evidence that Stalin ever made such a statement. So maybe he wasn't so bad. Like history's written by the victors, isn't it? Maybe he was a cuddly Georgian pussycat. Pussycat. It should come as no surprise, therefore.
Just had a bit of a temper, Uncle Joe.
Oh well, but they do, don't they?
Yeah. Also great afterwards. Oh, I'm asking 20,000 people.
I'm a slave to my temper. I'm sorry. I said the red mist.
You know what I get like? Brookie shandies.
Yeah. Oh, you
shouldn't have let me drink that. Get at me, yeah.
You shouldn't have let me drink whiskey. You know what I get like? I've got to stick to the body. You know I love you, Gil. He said to, I don't know, like most of Russia. The Creation Ministry's assertion has absolutely no foundation.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah. However, why would the Soviets fund such a human chimp hybridization program in the first place? And what can be learned from this sordid tale of ethical misconduct is an important topic and fascinating in its own right. Ivanov represents a scientist widely respected in his field. His dedication to find out if something could be done blinded him to ask whether it should be done.
Oh, there you go.
It also reminds us of the role that politicians can play in the development of scientific research, even if the scientists directly involved are not political themselves. I'll tell you what, Bill. Tell you what. Like I had like a really hard time, right, a few years back, because I was all for CERN, right? I was fully behind it, the Large Particle Accelerator. They were looking for the Higgs boson, the God particle, right? Mm-hmm. And we thought when they found that everything would change. There'd be hoverboards, there'd be plentiful food and everything. They found that nothing's changed. Nothing's. I was hanging all my hopes on the Higgs boson, Neil, and nothing's changed.
Well, it's allowed them to fill in a few more gaps about, physics.
But I thought everything was going to change.
Well, no, I don't think it was.
I thought the world was going to change. I thought we'd have peace. It was called the God particle.
No, that only happens when, what do we call it? Blazing Stallions or whatever they are, write their record.
Right, okay. Wild Stallions.
Wild Stallions, that's it.
There's rumours, isn't there? There's conspiracies that there's several around CERN, isn't there? One that they created a black hole, one that that knocked us. This is a good one. One that it knocked us into a different timeline, a worse timeline, which is why loads of why things have been really shit for a few years. Yeah,
I think that's people not understanding, how luck happens.
I mean, probably look at who you're voting for and stuff. Do you know what I mean?
That'd be good as well.
So, contrary to the claims of conservative Christians, Ilya Ivanov's interest in hybridization occurred long before the Russian Revolution of 1917 and had little connection with Marxist ideology. Following his graduation in 1896 with the equivalent of a PhD in psychology, yeah. I don't read so good.
Study of the body, basically, yeah.
Ivanov conducted research in bacteriology, Neil, at the Institut Pasteur in Paris. Before working with the world-famous physiologist Ivan Pavlov of the dogs.
Yeah.
Ivanov utilized the same surgical techniques to earn Pavlov a Nobel Prize and was successfully, I don't know what's wrong with me today, so just not having a job, able to extract animal sex glands so as to develop techniques of artificial insemination in purebred horses. Just give it a tug and spunk their wug.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
The research. Well, I know that whenever I hear a bell, I ejaculate.
Yeah, but who wouldn't?
Ding ding. Ooh. Room for a little one. So the research was
fire alarms are embarrassing.
Oh dear, yeah.
Stop it.
That's why I was. That's why I was fired from being a butler as well.
Mind you, I probably should have gone for that fire warden training.
Well, you went there for the thrills, didn't you?
Yeah.
So the research was subsequently expanded to farm animals more generally, and Ivanov became the leading international figure in the study of artificial insemination. Ivanov's first mention of his idea for using artificial insemination to determine if a human-ape hybrid could be produced occurred at an Austrian zoology conference in 1910. There was no indications he had any plan to carry out such research at the time. However, 7 years after the revolution in 1924, Ivanov was conducting experiments on sperm disinfection at the Institut Pasteur, where he was offered the institute's support for the hybridization scheme. They offered Ivanov free access to the animals at the Institute's recently organized chimpanzee factory in the village of Gindia, French Guiana, Guinea, but could not pay for any of the operational travel expenses of the project. After several failed attempts to secure funding, Ivanov eventually received $10,000 from the Soviet Financial Commission, and his project was subsequently approved by the Soviet Academy of Science. Ivan Pavlov of the dogs was a distinguished member of the Academy and was present the day that the decision was made. So, have you ever seen any black and white footage of the experiment of the dogs?
It's Pavlov's dogs. Yeah, because we had to cut a thing in their throat, didn't they, to get the saliva.
To collect the saliva.
Yeah. Well, they were collecting the amount of saliva, well, it was so you could do it scientifically to understand how much. I think they puncture one of the salivary glands and then they measured it in like a glass tube or something, didn't they? To see
it's horrible, isn't it? But it sort of feels unnecessary. Can you just put a straw in their mouth?
Presumably not. They would have done that. It would have been easier to do.
I don't know. These scientists, all scientists are monsters, aren't they?
Indeed.
It was certainly Ivanov's distinguished reputation that allowed the project to move forward. In his proposal to the Academy, he stated that he wanted to test various hypotheses that have been suggested in scientific literature. One such hypothesis was that of German scientist Hans Friedenthal, whose analysis of blood cells in 1900 between chimpanzees, gorillas, orangutans, and humans showed that they were serologically far more similar than previously had been expected. As a result, Friedenthal proposed that anthropod reproductive cells could be similar enough to result in hybrid between humans and other apes.
I mean, certainly at the DNA level, I think it's only like a 3% difference between sort of, but that's actually quite an important 3%.
That's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of difference, because I think, like we're very genetically similar to grass. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I mean, depending on how you, but it's
you're 100% genetically similar to spiders, aren't you? Of course.
Yes. Yeah, I am technically. Yeah,
technically a spider. Yeah. Got any powers?
No.
No.
No. It's not worked out well for me. I can shoot webs out of somewhere, but I'm not going to. It's more of an embarrassing medical condition.
Right. When the bells ring.
Yeah, it's not controlled.
So, in the following 2 decades,
medication. Why I am.
Oh, had to be chemically castrated, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In the following 2 decades, other researchers, although this Chinese textile magnate keeps asking me out for dates.
Well, it never stopped. I was pure silk, to be fair.
The pure silk.
No. highest quality.
Woof. Really thick as well, really thick, strong silk.
Meaty,
yeah.
You build a bridge out of it.
Oh, easily. I've seen you build a bridge out of it. What happened in Greece stays in Greece. In the following 2 decades, other research, such as Dutch Marie, Bernlo Moens, and the German sexologist Raman Rolida sought to test this prediction by inseminating chimpanzee females with human sperm. They haven't said how they did this. However, their attempts never got beyond the foreplay, the planning stage, and in the case of Moens, his research plans resulted in him being fired from his teaching position.
Right, so you see what you've done with the animal livestock and the turkey base. I'm not too impressed. Oh, it's for science. Yeah. Like seeing the Ghostbusters when they're getting kicked out of university.
Can I help with that? I love my work. Yeah. Do something you enjoy and never work a day in your life. That's what my father said. So, with his small budget and the use of Institut Pasteur's facility, Ivanov and his son travelled to Guinea, in Western Africa. I think I keep saying that because French Guiana has come up in the press recently, because in France, unlike a lot of post-colonial countries that still got bits around the world, so like French Guiana, which is in north bit of South America, they actually have like an MP. They have representation in the House of Representatives in France.
Okay.
And what the right wing are trying to do in France, because what happens apparently. Oh, this isn't in French Guiana. This is happening in an island, but it's also they're talking about it in French Guiana as well. What happens is that people from other countries will go into that country because to have their kids, because then they'll be born French citizens.
Oh, okay.
And so the right wing are trying to stop that people born in the French territories are considered French citizens.
Yeah.
But then that's like, but they've got representation, so. So you can't read it, but I think it's the island. I know the island of Comoros, and so people from Comoros are going to this French because they voted massively to leave France, but they're going to the island next door, which voted to stay in France to have their kids, so they've got French citizenship on. So the right wing don't like it, unsurprisingly. But they don't like anything, really, do they?
Oh, Jesus.
God, guns, and greasy fries. Nice. So he went to French Guinea in West Africa to carry out his artificial insemination experiments in March 1926. However, his research was hounded at every turn. The research station had only 2 veterinarians on staff, and Ivanov's presence resulted in outrage that he might report on the atrocious conditions. Ivanov explained that, so this is quotes, Ivanov explained that the hostility of the station's staff arose from their fears that he would report back to Paris about the real problems at the facility. According to the documentation that he managed to see, about 700 chimpanzee had been bought from native hunters since the founding of the station in 1923, and more than half of them had died before they could be shipped to Paris for biomedical experiments. So, local hunters had kidnapped the chimpanzees from the wild as infants, and all were still juvenile when Ivanov arrived. Any animal lovers might want to not listen to all this, I guess. But, I mean, we're all aware it happened, didn't we? He only attempted to inseminate 3 females before being forced to abandon the project and drink some electrolytes, as useless. Desperate to make use of his limited funding, Ivanov then made the horrific decision to attempt the insemination of African women with the chimpanzee sperm without their knowledge.
Okay.
Fucking hell. He made a proposal to doctors at a local hospital about his experiment and was ready to proceed when the General Governor of French Guinea, Paul Poiret, rejected the plan. Out of options of funding, Ivanov and his son soon decided to return home. By the time boarded their ship, they'd been in Africa for just over 1 month. So not successful.
Not a productive trip, and morally unlikely one, but yeah.
So Ivanov hoped to pursue his experiments again in Russia through the use of women volunteers, and he found at least one who was willing to participate. However, when word got out that Ivanov had attempted to inseminate African women without their consent, he was condemned by the Soviet Academy of Sciences, and all support was eliminated. An investigation concluded that Ivanov's behavior might undermine the trust of Africans in European researchers and doctors and make it problematic for any further expeditions of Russian scientists to Africa. Thereafter, the Academy did not want to deal with Ivanov and deprived him of any further support.
Fair enough.
Yeah. While some of his previous support was based in the political ideology at the time, there were strong political divisions that split scientific opinion on a range of issues, and Ivanov was caught in between. To some Marxists, it was hoped that a program of positive eugenics could lead to improvement in the population, similar to Marx's description of historical materialism. Researchers in this camp, such as Hermann Müller, hoped to use scientific techniques so parents thought to have good genetic background would have more children, a policy in sharp contrast to the negative eugenics later employed by the Nazis to emphasize sterilization. Muller and other geneticists hoped that Ivanov's research could lead to a better understanding of what qualities to look for. However, other scientists rejected genetic research as bourgeois or imperialist, advocated the inheritance of acquired characteristics, which is commonly known as Lamarckism. Yeah. It was these researchers, led by the charismatic biologist Trofim Lysenko, who had Stalin support at the time.
He was still carrying on with Lamarckism in the, the 40s or something?
This would be late 20s.
Not late 20s, okay.
What is Lamarck?
So Lamarck was a French scientist who came out before Darwin, but basically he decided that you would inherit, they would inherit physical characteristics. So if it was similar, but it didn't. So you've got to bear in mind, nobody knew what DNA was or anything like that at the time. So Darwin was the first to realise that it was through mutation and inheritance of some sort of something that came
favourable gene
from a birth. Whereas he thought that the parent Lamarck it was similar, but didn't have that principle. But to get all this
right.
years since I studied any of this stuff, but Yeah, I mean, he wasn't far off from where Darwin was, to be fair. I mean, but
so close.
But yeah, Darwin realised there was some kind of inherited trait rather than just
Mm.
And it's physically past that kind of conception.
So, in a telling example of the political divisions Ivanov became caught up in, Cambridge historian Martin Richards describes how Muller, one of Ivanov's supporters, sent a letter to Stalin advocating a positive eugenic program. However, the timing couldn't have been worse. Lysenko and his followers had warned Stalin that genetic research would lead to eugenics as well as fascism, and now Stalin was convinced. Muller was quite far-sighted there, really.
Yeah.
Muller was forced to flee Moscow for fear of being arrested, and days later received word that several of his colleagues were shot as enemies of the people. It was in this, atmosphere that Ilya Ivanov met his end. After several additional attempts to receive support for his research without success, Ivanov was caught up in an ideological battle. One of his scientific enemies, Orest Neyman, accused him of sabotage by the Beastie Boys because some of his artificial insemination farm instruments had apparently malfunctioned. On December 13th, 1930, Ivanov was arrested by the secret police and convicted of having created a counter-revolutionary organization amongst agricultural specialists and banished to Kazakhstan, where he died 2 years later. His main accuser took over his position as head of the lab. Beautiful.
You get your bunts. Your way up the ladder.
So, the history raises a number of troubling issues. The fact of the matter is that Ilya Ivanov cannot simply be dismissed as a rogue ideologue abusing science for dubious political purposes. Rather, he was an internationally respected leader in reproductive physiology and the foremost expert at the time in artificial insemination of farm animals. His human-chimp hybridization experiments came out of collaboration with other respected scientists, with the direct assistance of the Institut Pasteur, one of the leading scientific institutions in the world at the time. Furthermore, while there was apparently no overt racism in his research, his decision to inseminate African women without their knowledge or consent can only be understood in the context of racist and sexist colonial attitude.
Oh, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's too much debate about that.
While Ivanov doesn't seem to have had political motivation for his research, some of those involved in supporting his work certainly did. In this way, Ivanov's experiment was not only made possible because of a network of individuals and institutions with specific political ambitions, even though Ivanov himself wasn't directly involved with them. When we consider scientific experimentation today, where do we draw the line between sound research and ethical violations? In what way are funding decisions based on political considerations unrelated to the direct question a researcher hopes to answer? How does state power influence scientific research? And what relationship do scientists have with those on the receiving end of this power? Even though no one, other than the scientists involved, were ever hurt by this crossbreeding research, it nevertheless raises serious concerns. While the question of the ape-man super warrior myth can easily be discarded after examining the history, other questions are not quite so easy to dismiss. So
there you go. So this research all took part in the 1920s, though, did it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that would have been...
So before all this, so it doesn't mention any of this in here, but before this, I've read another article, which I've looked at twice, and now it's asking me to sign up to read it again, and I'm not interested. I think it's a New Scientist. Fucking grabby. Scientists for the people and Wu-Tangs for the babies. But he previously had some success breeding like a donkey with a zebra and stuff like that, like some other... He'd done some other stuff.
And he's probably, he might have been an important figure in kind of part of the artificial insemination and stuff, because these things don't, such and such a person invents them, but they always forget about the sort of many people who come before and done experiments that weren't quite as successful, but still sort of paved the way to an extent. But the thing is, you get these kind of where people, breed different species, but that's the whole thing, is that they can't, that's kind of the definition of a species, is that you can't, if it's in between
breed with other species.
You could give birth to something that's not viable, what they call viable offspring. So it's it couldn't have offspring of its own,
like a mule.
Exactly, yeah, exactly that.
Like a mule on a spinning wheel.
So it would have been quite weird if they had been able to, But there you go. I think suffice to say, ethical standards were somewhat lower in those days. But I'm not sure how Uncle Joe was involved. Stalin kicked
he funded it initially, or the scientific community funded it, but he doesn't seem to have been heavily involved in it.
No, it would have been. Anyway.
So in popular fiction, there was something called the Orango Opera. So his work was one of the sources of inspiration for the unfinished satirical opera Orango, whose prologue was sketched in 1932 by Dmitry Shoshankovich, with a libretto by Alexei Tolstoy. But it was later abandoned and discarded.
In relation to the other Tolstoy?
I think it's the same guy. It's Alexei Nikolaevich Tolstoy. Russian writer.
Leo Tolstoy, I'm thinking of.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. They're all called Tolstoy.
Russian names confusing, isn't it?
So the manuscript was found by
Olga Nikolaevich Tolstoy, apparently. Anyway.
Okay.
I think he had quite a large family.
The manuscript was found by Olga Digonskaya, a Russian musicologist, in the Glinka Museum, Moscow in 2004, and orchestrated by Gerald McBurney. This work was premiered on the 2nd of December 2011 in Los Angeles at the Los Angeles Philharmonic under Esa-Pekka Salonen, the conductor. So it got its outing, and it was also dramatized. It was also in a dramatized documentary television series called Dark Matters, Twisted but True, featuring features in a segment of Ape Man Army, where the theories are dramatized. I think that's about it, Neil. But before we go to our scoring system, I wanted to ask you something which I keep forgetting to, about your. You had some meeting with the with your roasting thing, which you said you'd feedback on. So if you'd like to explain to the listeners what this is, we have mentioned it before, but you're
even vaguely interested, but no,
I'm interested. You're a roast master, aren't you?
No, Toastmaster it's called.
Toastmaster.
It's funnily enough, it's an American organisation, but they do public speaking courses, so I run the one that...
so you very much like a Soviet climber managed to end up running it.
I am technically the president. Nobody else could be bothered, is the long and short of it. So I'm technically... It's a very American like that. So they have a president who's basically the person who runs the club. And
do you have a special jacket?
There's buttons, but I've never worn one. They can send you buttons.
We've got a little uniform.
Little president button.
Have you got it? Have you got it?
I was vice president of education. No, I've never even seen it. We don't.
What? But you need to make some. You're the president.
Yeah,
so you're the president, the commander in chief. Let's just say in chief.
It was quite lax on a lot of that stuff, and I don't know they do all the physical stuff. It's moved more online now. It used to be they'd send you like paper manuals, and they had. I think there were some like little badges or something like that.
Right.
Toot toot. Yeah.
So
I've never seen it or received it.
And you had to go to a meeting on the weekend, which I was astounded.
Yeah, 9 till 12, something like that. It was just that hotel outside Brighton Station.
Wasn't this when you were trying to fold the organisation or something?
Well, it carries on for another 6 months actually, because we just got funding from HR. But it's public speaking training. So it was a bunch of kind of like how you run the club and good things to do, how to plug it and all that. So it wasn't too bad actually.
Did you get into any heated arguments?
No, not really. It was Sorry, this is not.
No, I thought it was going to be better. Like you said, because you mentioned it, and I said, "All right, tell me about it." And you said, "Oh, I'll mention it on the podcasts." But
I thought we were just going to talk about it off podcast. But yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough.
There ain't a lot to say, to be honest. It was a few weeks back. I've forgotten most of it now. But yeah, no, just did basically did training at a hotel on public speaking. So there you go.
Yeah, so you're good at it.
Or how to run a public speaking club. Well, as you can, as listeners can infer for themselves from possibly years worth of me twittering on. Clearly, it's not having much of an effect.
But do you think that in front of an audience, like if we did this live, do you think that you'd be fine?
Oh, I'd be projecting, sir, and
hello,
giving it all of the eye contact. Yeah, it's these
but it's good, like, because
it's good to get a bit of training.
It can be nerve-wracking getting up and speaking in front of people, can't it? So
no, do you know what? In all seriousness, I've been doing it for a few years, and it is quite nice to see people who get very nervous actually having the chance to do things.
God, well, this isn't one of those wholesome podcasts which everyone goes on. Ugh, fuck's sake! Right, Neil, spookiness, go.
Yeah, just infuriated, Spookiness. I mean. Yeah, there's a fair bit spooky on this. I think human-animal hybrids, that's, rogue scientists who sound like they had quite a ruined their legacy from having had a reasonable career is quite spooky. So, yeah, it's not spooky in the traditional sense, but given that it actually happened and some of the creepy shit he tried to get up to, I'm going to give it an 8.
An 8, lovely. So, I sort of think if it wasn't him, someone would have done it, right?
I think none of it was successful, anyway, was it? It just sounded like it was a whole bunch of fails. I mean, unsurprisingly, there was nothing viable. But I think it's more the breaking of the ethical constraints.
Yeah, I think the abuse of. I mean, but that was going on everywhere. But I think basically, if you think about kind of how fly by night. From an ethical point of view, a lot of scientists have been over the years. Then that's fairly spooky. The kind of pursuit of your goal or the pursuit of your theory, really, overriding other human life. Is madness, and I think that is quite scary. So, but nothing paranormal. I'll give it a 7 now. So, believability all happened 10 now.
Yeah, I mean it's not really a myth, is it? It's it's all documented. So 10, fair enough.
Yeah, I think I mean, like I'm not wrapping in that anyone actually has any ape super soldiers into this. I'm just going with the story. Narrative premise, Neil.
I mean, yeah, I suppose there is a bit here. I really wanted to get a massively high score, but it's yeah. I mean, you've got the whole sort of, I don't know, it's like a fucked up Captain America kind of thing, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean, I just can't envisage what the end state. Although I think a lot of it.
Well, it's like
I don't think anyone was trying to necessarily create a load of human monkey super soldiers. I think it was more just an experiment to see whether they could be crossbreed.
Well, it's like have you seen Red's Umbrella Academy?
I've seen Umbrella Academy. Yeah, there is.
So they've got the monkey man, haven't they?
They grafted his head onto a monkey. Oh no, there's Pongo, the little chimp fella as well. Yeah.
But no, he was given monkey genes.
Well, there's number one. Oh, I can't remember what the story is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's got like an ape's body, hasn't he? And he's super strong because of that.
Human ape.
When he went on the moon.
Yeah,
but that's more of a kind of like a Frankenstein's monster. Well, I don't know. I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, so but it's generally about having bad parents.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, so I think that there's, but the actual thing itself doesn't. There's not really that much to say to it. But there's the bones of kind of like some kind of Frankenstein's monster style story. Yeah, if you actually if you've been successful in and the whole spurious stuff around super soldiers and all of that kind of stuff. But I mean. Actually, I think it was more just kind of like trying to, attempting to see if they could crossbreed between different species and be successful. Don't know what the end game
was. And we not should we, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'll give it a 6.
6. Yeah, I mean, like
got none of the apes out of it, apparently. Although that third or fourth Planet of the Apes movie where they were disco dancing, I'm not sure about that.
Not seen it.
I can't even remember what it's called. But my plan at uni had the box set on VHS.
Right.
And so the first one.
Oh, what, the original ones?
Yeah, first one was Charlton Heston. The second one's Charlton Heston battles a load of nuclear.
That's Return to the Planet of the Apes, isn't it? The second one.
And then by the third or fourth one, they've gone back to the 70s and they're disco dancing. They're like celebrities.
Which is where the Monkey Man of Delhi comes from.
No, they go back in time. So what eventually happens is...
so he takes the monkeys back in time.
There are monkeys that get sent back in time through the ion storm or whatever.
Yeah.
Even though this is none of the original physics in the original movie.
No.
Go back to the 70s Earth, become celebrities. They film them disco dancing the chimpanzees on the club, CBGBs or whatever, or club. What's it called? Studio 74.
Studio 54.
Studio 54. Sorry. Yeah. And it's all really sort of massive collars and things like that. And then the original story is, I think that then they have a sort of they then start breeding the intelligent, enslaving them, and then that's when it becomes like a self-fulfilling cycle.
Right. Okay.
The ones that got sent back from the future go into the past. They get enslaved by the humans, and then end up having a rebellion and taking
over the Planet of the Apes happened.
And that's how it happened, Chris.
It's cocaine fueled. It was all down.
Script writers cocaine fueled.
It was all
makes absolutely zero sense if you think about it.
It was all down to cocaine and Earth, Wind and Fire.
Yeah. There you go.
So
disco dancing chimpanzees is an amusing.
Yeah, that's good.
Image.
Yeah, I mean it's just another sort of tale of dodgy science from the past. Yeah, I mean it's all there. It's a story. I don't think it's particularly interesting, to be honest. So I'm going to give it 4. And Reach. So apparently this is quite well known of, but I didn't know of it, and I was telling my mum about it because happy birthday, Mum! It was her 70th yesterday.
Yes.
I was telling her about it, and she didn't know it had happened. So I don't think everyone knows that they actually tried.
I don't think it's commonly known, and I think
it's common knowledge.
There's a lot of silly rumours around, they actually had like a half human, half chimpanzee, or half human, half gorilla, but they couldn't get them to fire the guns because of opposable thumbs or whatever.
Yeah,
animals used in war. That's another. But that's not really an urban myth, but it's another.
Yeah. Greased pigs.
That's happened.
So I don't think it's that big a reach, but it's not unknown. I'm going to give it 4 for Reach now.
Yeah, I don't think Reach is. I mean, I'm kind of subtracting a little bit here as well because it's not not so much as a myth. So the story so there's a sort of spurious side of the story that's been it's like those things where they pretend like so much more had happened, but. Yeah, I don't think it's terribly well known. There was that opera, I think, or whatever you mentioned. So it's been in a bit of, but yeah, it's not
Orango.
Yeah, you kind of just every so often you hear people talk about there was didn't they try and breed sort of human gorillas or whatever some hybrid species soldiers in there, and they generally tend to assume that there was some degree of success.
And I normally think it was, to be honest, they normally think it's the Nazis as well because
yes, and probably.
They were up to all sorts of dreadful shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 3 because I think it's not really that well.
Well, that's a nice high 52. I mean, when they're real, they certainly come out a bit higher.
The reality thing's sort of swung the bias there a bit, hasn't it?
So if you are a human Z, then we'd love to hear from you. So email us at herb.legends.podcast@gmail.com, or you can Twitter us at Legends Urbane. We are there. Sorry we're a bit late. Hopefully, I mean, it wasn't worth it, but we did get it out, so we fulfilled our promise. And I
wish we hadn't bothered now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but there we go.
There you go. All life is suffering, listeners. You'll die one day, don't worry. If you enjoy the podcast, tell some. If you enjoy the podcast and someone else who's like as odd as you, then please let them know. And if you want to leave, if you could leave a comment or star ratings or whatever, that'd be really nice. We have been doing this
2.5. It'll be 3 years soon, and we haven't had many ratings or comments. So it'd be really nice if someone could do that.
Our listeners.
We do know there are listeners or bots. So
it's possible, yeah.
If you could take like 2 seconds out your day to do that, that'd be really nice. It'd just give us a little boost. And God knows I need it. You know, winter out.
Times are hard.
Times are hard. But you know, you don't come here to listen to us complain and beg for your
validation.
Love. Yeah. So we will be back next week. I can't remember what we're looking at next week, but it will be out on time. And hopefully you have a nice week. And take care, and we'll see you soon. We love you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
It's an urban legend. Oh yeah. Oh, girls are great. Oh, I'd give them my best. White and white, please, John. Right, Steve.